Now we went through the Catholic quotes, part 1 and part 2. Now we're going to get into the different Protestant denominations. What do Protestants say? Baptists, Dr. Edward T. Hiscock, before the New York Ministers' Conference, November 13th, 1893. Then it was published in the New York Examiner, November 16th, 1893. There was and is a commandment to keep holy the Sabbath day, but the Sabbath day was not Sunday. It will be said, however, and with some show of triumph, that the Sabbath was transferred from the Sabbath to the first day of the week. Where can the record of such a transaction be found? Not in the New Testament, absolutely not. To me, it seems unaccountable that Jesus, during 3 years' intercourse with his disciples, often conversing with them upon the Sabbath question, never alluded to any transference of the day. Also, that during 40 days of his resurrection life, no such thing was imitated. Of course, I quite well know that Sunday did come into use in early Christian history, but what a pity it comes branded with the mark of paganism and christened with the name of the sun god, adopted and sanctioned by the papal apostasy, and bequeathed as a sacred legacy to Protestantism. Now, Dr. Edward Hiscock, he wrote the standard manual for the Baptist Church. William Carver, The Lord's Day in Our Day. There was never any formal or authoritative change from the seventh-day Sabbath to the first-day Sunday observance. There is nothing in Scripture that requires us to keep Sunday rather than Saturday as a holy day. Methodist, Reverend John Wesley, the works of Reverend John Wesley. But the moral law contained in the Ten Commandments and enforced by the prophets, he, Christ, did not take away. It was not the design of his coming to revoke any part of this. This is a law which never can be broken. Every part of this law must remain in force upon all mankind and in all ages, as not depending upon either on time or place or any other circumstances liable to change, but on the nature of God and the nature of man and their unchangeable relation to each other. Harris Franklin Rawl, Christian Advocate. Take the matter of Sunday. There are indications in the New Testament as to how the church came to keep the first day of the week as its day of worship, but there is no passage telling Christians to keep that day or to transfer the Jewish Sabbath to that day. Amos Binney, Theological Compendium. It is true that there is no positive command for infant baptism, nor is there any for keeping holy the first day of the week. Many believe that Christ changed the Sabbath, but from his own words we see that he came for no such purpose. Those who believe that Jesus changed the Sabbath base it only on supposition. Charles Buck, a Theological Dictionary. Sabbath in the Hebrew language signifies rest and is the seventh day of the week, and it must be confessed that there is no law in the New Testament concerning the first day. Clovis Chappelle, 10 Rules for Living. The reason we observe the first day instead of the seventh is based on no positive command. One will search the Scriptures in vain for authority for changing from the seventh day to the first. Lutheran, the Augsburg Confession of Faith, Article 28, written by Philip Melanchthon, approved by Martin Luther, 1530. They, the Roman Catholics, refer to the Sabbath day as having been changed into the Lord's Day, contrary to the Decalogue. Neither is there any example more boasted of than the changing of the Sabbath day. Great, they say, is the power and authority of the Church, since it dispensed with one of the 10 Commandments. Dr. Augustus Neander, The History of the Christian Religion and Church, Volume 1, page 186. The festival of Sunday, like all other festivals, was only a human ordinance, and it was far from the intentions of the apostles to establish a divine command in this respect, far from them, and far from the early apostolic church, to transfer the law of the Sabbath to Sunday. Lutheran Witness, September 9th, 1902. The observance of Sunday as the Lord's Day is not founded on any command of God, but on the authority of the Catholic Church. Martin Luther against the Celestial Prophets, 1525, Works, Volume 26, page 150 to 151. Indeed, if Karlstadt were to write further about the Sabbath, Sunday would have to give way, and the Sabbath, that is to say Saturday, must be kept holy. John Theodore Mueller, Sabbath or Sunday. But they err in teaching that Sunday has taken the place of the Old Testament Sabbath, and therefore must be kept as the seventh day had to be kept by the children of Israel. These churches err in their teaching, for Scripture has in no way ordained the first day of the week in place of the Sabbath. There is simply no law in the New Testament to that effect. Christian Connection later became part of the United Church of Christ. Dr. Nathaniel Somerville, History of the Christian Church, 3rd edition, 1873. Sunday is founded not on Scripture, but on tradition, and is distinctly a Catholic institution, as there is no Scripture for the transfer of the day of rest from the last to the first day of the week. Protestants ought to keep Saturday as the Sabbath. American Congregationalist, Dr. Layman Abbott, Christian Union, June 26, 1890. The current notion that Christ and his apostles authoritatively substituted the first day for the seventh is absolutely without any authority in the New Testament. Dwight L. Moody, Wade and Wanning. This is the founder of the Moody Bible Institute. The Sabbath was binding in Edith, and it has been enforced ever since. This fourth commandment begins with the word remember, showing that the Sabbath already existed when God wrote this law on the tables of stone at Sinai. How can men claim that this one commandment has been done away with when they will admit that the other 9 are still binding? Canon Eden and the 10 Commandments. These are Presbyterians now. There is no word, no hint in the New Testament about abstaining from work on Sunday. The observance of Ash Wednesday or Lent stands exactly on the same footing as observance of Sunday, and to the rest of Sunday no divine law enters. Christian at Work, January 1884. We hear less than we used to about the apostolic origin of the present Sunday observance, and for the reason that while the Sabbath and Sabbath rest are woven into the warp and woof of Scripture, it is now seen, as it is admitted, that we must go to the later than apostolic times for the establishment of the Sunday observance. Christian at Work, January 8th, 1885. We rest the designation of Sunday as a sacred day on the Church having set it apart of its own authority. The seventh-day rest was commanded in the fourth commandment. The selection of Sunday, thus changing the particular day designated in the fourth commandment, was brought about by the gradual concurrence of the early church, Christian church, and on the basis and none other does the Christian Sabbath, the first day of the week, rightly rest. Church of Christ, Bible Standard, May 1916. But we do not find any direct command from God, or instruction from the risen Christ, or admonition from the early apostles that the first day is to be substituted for the seventh-day Sabbath. Let us be clear on this point, though, to the Christian that day, the first day of the week, is the most memorable of all days. There is no command or warrant in the New Testament for observing it as a holy day. The Roman Church selected the first day of the week in honor of the resurrection of Christ. Bible Standard, April 1916. If the fourth commandment is binding upon us Gentiles, by all means keep it, but let those who demand a strict observance of the Sabbath remember that the seventh day is the only Sabbath day commanded, and God never repealed that command. If you would keep the Sabbath, keep it, but Sunday is not the Sabbath. The argument of the Seventh-day Adventists is on one point unassailable. It is the seventh day, not the first day, that command refers to. Christian Oracle, January 23rd, 1890. There is no direct scriptural authority for designating the first day the Lord's Day. Brethren, Words of Truth and Grace, page 281, with the views of the law and the Sabbath we once held, and which are still held by perhaps the great majority of the most earnest Christians, we confess that we could not answer Adventists. What is more, neither before or since have I heard or read what would conclusively answer an Adventist in his scriptural contention that the seventh day is the Sabbath, Exodus 20:10. It is not one day in seven, as some put it, but the seventh day according to the commandment. Anglican, author P. Stanley, History of the Eastern Church, page 184. The retention of the old pagan name Dies Solis for Sunday is, in great measure, owing to the union of pagan and Christian sentiments, with which the first day of the week was recommended by Constantine to his subjects, pagan and Christian alike, as the venerable day of the sun. Isaac Williams, Plain Sermons on the Catechism. And where are we told in the Scriptures that we are to keep the first day at all? We are commanded to keep the seventh, but we are nowhere commanded to keep the first day. The reason why we keep the first day of the week holy instead of the seventh is for the same reason that we observe many other things, not because the Bible, but because the Church has enjoined it. Episcopalian, Philip Carrington, Archbishop of Quebec, Canada, and Toronto Daily Star, October 26, 1949. The Bible commandment says, "On the seventh day thou shalt rest." That is Saturday. Nowhere in the Bible is it laid down that worship should be done on Sunday. Jehovah's Witness, jehovahwitness.org. Nowhere does the Bible say that Christian meetings were to be held on Sunday or any other particular day of the week. So then, why do many professed Christians observe Sunday as a holy day? The custom of worshiping on Sunday arose after the Bible was completed, and a variety of beliefs and traditions, not based on the Bible, had begun to appear. Did God later reestablish a weekly day for communal worship? No. The entire pattern for true worship is laid out in detail in the Bible. No other inspired writings have been added to the Holy Scripture. The Apostle Paul was inspired to write, "Even if we or angels out of heaven were to declare to you a good news, something beyond what we declare to you as good news, let him be accursed." Galatians 1:8. Pentecostal, David A. Womack. Is Sunday the Lord's Day in the Pentecostal Evangel, August 9th, 1959. Why do we worship on Sunday? Doesn't the Bible teach us that Saturday should be the Lord's Day? Apparently, we will have to seek the answers from some other source than the New Testament.